Amanda's words struck me sharply as she stood in my son's kitchen, her wedding dress hanging perfectly behind her. The best present would be if you vanished from our family. She smiled, that artificial smile I'd learned to despise over time.
Michael nodded in agreement, not even making eye contact with me. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're joining from. Let me provide some background first. I need your likes and comments to know you're engaged with my story. How did I reach this point?
3 years earlier, I'd sold my lovely Victorian home, the one my late husband, Robert, and I had carefully restored, to give Michael and Amanda the initial payment for their ideal house, $87,000. My complete life savings, given with a mother's limitless love. They'd assured me I'd always have a home there, always be included in their family. Now, the day before their expensive wedding that I was funding, Amanda decided I was unnecessary. "You heard her," Michael said at last, his tone icy. "This is meant to be our perfect weekend. Your bad attitude is spoiling it all." My bad attitude? I'd spent the morning organizing flowers, the afternoon assisting with final details, and the evening hearing Amanda criticize everything from the forecast to the food server. The only negative comment I made was to suggest perhaps we didn't require ice sculptures designed like swans. "Where precisely am I expected to go?" I asked, my voice strangely steady. Amanda shrugged, looking at her perfect nails. "I'm not sure. A hotel? Your sister's? Honestly, Dorothy, I don't mind where you go, as long as you aren't here tomorrow." "This is my son's house as well," I reminded her. "Actually," Michael cleared his throat, "it's more Amanda's house now. She's been managing all the bills, making the upgrades. You just gave us some cash one time."
Some cash one time. $87,000 minimized to some cash one time. I stood there in the kitchen where I'd prepared numerous family meals, staring at the granite surfaces I'd assisted in selecting, the custom cupboards my money had allowed. These individuals had taken all I'd offered them and persuaded themselves they were entitled to it. That's when something within me moved. Not shattered, moved, like a mechanism sliding into a new place. "You're correct," I said quietly. "I should leave." Amanda appeared shocked. She likely anticipated crying, begging, the typical drama she could later recount to her friends as Dorothy causing trouble again. "I'll pack my bags and be out in an hour." Michael actually seemed relieved. "That's likely for the best, Mom. We can speak after the honeymoon once everything calms down." Talk after the honeymoon, as if this was merely a small disagreement about seating charts. I went upstairs to the guest room that had been my residence for the last 6 months. Not my room, I wasn't permitted to call it that. Always the guest room, because guests eventually depart. As I placed my clothes into my suitcase, I could hear them downstairs already discussing how to reorganize the area. Amanda wished to make it into a yoga space. Michael believed it would work as a good office. Neither of them thought that perhaps, just maybe, they should experience some remorse about ejecting the woman who'd made their ideal life achievable. I stopped at Robert's picture on the bedside table. 43 years of marriage, and he'd never once made me feel unneeded in my own home. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered to his picture. "I'm not giving up without a struggle." But first, I had calls to make. Sitting in my car outside their house, no, correct that, outside the house my money had purchased, I took out my phone and called my lawyer's emergency line. Margaret Chen had been managing my affairs since Robert's passing, and she'd cautioned me about this precise situation. Dorothy, it's Saturday night. Is everything okay? Margaret, I need you to get the documentation on the house purchase. All of it. A pause. Has something occurred with Michael and Amanda? I explained everything. Amanda's demand, Michael's disloyalty, the offhand way they dismissed my contribution as some cash once. Margaret listened without stopping, though I could hear her typing quickly. Dorothy, I've been concerned about this for months, the way they've been treating your investment as a present, rather than what it truly was. What do you mean, what it truly was? Another pause. Longer now. You don't recall signing those extra papers? The ones I insisted on after you voiced worries about Amanda's spending patterns. My heart began beating quicker. Margaret, please tell me you protected me somehow. Oh, honey, the $87,000 wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan with your name on the title as part owner. Amanda never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent over. In the view of the law, you possess 35% of that house. I almost dropped the phone. Are you certain? Completely certain. Amanda kept neglecting to sign the documents, and you were so concentrated on maintaining family harmony that you never pushed the matter. But the mortgage company has you listed as a co-signer. The deed indicates your ownership portion. It's all entirely legal and valid. Through the kitchen window, I could see Amanda displaying her wedding dress to someone on a video call, likely her mother. She was laughing, gesturing dramatically, completely unaware of the discussion that was going to change her world. Margaret, hypothetically speaking, what would occur if I wished to sell my portion of the house? Well, as a part owner, you'd have every right to initiate a sale. The other owners would have first option to purchase, naturally. They could purchase your share at current market value. And if they couldn't manage to purchase my share, then the house is listed and the profits are divided according to ownership percentages. I watched Michael appear in the kitchen window, opening a champagne bottle, celebrating their freedom from the troublesome mother. Without a doubt. Margaret, I need you to prepare a notice of intent to sell. I want it delivered first thing Monday morning. Dorothy, are you sure about this? Once we begin this process, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. They want me to vanish. Fine. But I'm taking my 35% with me. After ending the call, I sat in the deepening darkness, watching my son and his fiancée toast their future in the house I'd made possible. They had no clue that in under 48 hours, their perfect little universe was going to collapse. But first, I had one more call to make. Sunset Gardens Country Club, this is Jessica. Hi, Jessica. This is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to talk with your catering manager about tomorrow's wedding reception. Oh, Mrs. Mitchell, how wonderful. The wedding's tomorrow, correct? How can I assist? I'm afraid there's been an adjustment of plans. I need to call off the reception. Call off? But, ma'am, it's less than 24 hours away. The food has been made, the team is scheduled. I understand. And I'm ready to pay the cancellation fees. The thing is, I'm the person who signed the contract and provided the deposit. I believe I have the authority to make adjustments. Rustling of papers. Let me verify. Yes, the contract is under your name with your credit card details, but surely you want to speak with the bride and groom first. No need. I'm making a final decision. Please cancel everything. Mrs. Mitchell, with respect, this appears like something that should include the happy couple. I watched Amanda through the window, now modeling her veil for what had to be the 100th time today. The happy couple made it very clear that my participation in their lives is no longer desired, so I'm simply respecting their wishes. 20 minutes later, I was checked into the Hampton Inn across the city, ordering room service, and experiencing something I hadn't felt in years, the contentment of managing my own life.
My phone began ringing at 11:47 p.m.
What did you do?
Amanda's voice screamed through the phone so loudly I had to hold it away from my ear.
I honored your request, I said steadily, muting the TV in my hotel room. You wanted me to vanish, so I vanished. The country club phoned. They claimed you called off our reception. Our wedding reception, Dorothy? There are 200 people anticipating dinner tomorrow. I'm sure there are. That does sound like an issue. Michael took the phone. Mom, this is crazy. You can't just cancel our wedding because you're angry about sleeping arrangements. I didn't cancel your wedding. Sweetheart, you can still get married. I just canceled the reception I was paying for. You know, the one that was costing me $14,000? Silence. I'd never stated the cost before, always avoiding the subject when they inquired about money. Let me be their generous mother while they stayed happily ignorant of the sacrifices required. $14,000? Amanda's voice was weak now. The reception, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Did you believe it was all free? Did you think money just appeared because you two decided to have a fairy tale wedding? But we can't inform 200 people there's no reception, Michael stammered. You're capable adults. I'm sure you'll determine something. McDonald's provides catering now, I hear. Amanda was crying now. Ugly sobbing noises that might have made me feel guilty 6 months ago. Now they just sounded like the outbursts she'd been having since the engagement began. How could you do this to us? We trusted you. Trusted me? You literally told me to disappear from your family. I'm simply following your request. I didn't mean forever, Amanda wailed. I just meant for the weekend. Ah, I see. So I was supposed to intuitively understand that when you said permanently, you actually meant temporarily. My error. Michael attempted a different tactic. Mom, please, we can discuss this like adults. Return to the house and let's resolve this. The house where I'm no longer welcome. The house where my presence ruins everything. I don't think so. Where are you even staying? Amanda demanded. That's not really your concern anymore, is it? You made it quite clear that my living situation is my problem to solve. I could hear anxious whispering in the background, probably them attempting to determine how to fix the mess they made. Can you at least phone the country club back? Maybe if you clarify it was a misunderstanding? It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a very clear business choice made by the person who was paying for everything. But what about our guests? What about Amanda's family traveling from California? What about them? You're still getting married. They can still witness that. They just won't get a complimentary dinner afterwards. Amanda grabbed the phone back. You're being revengeful and mean. No, sweetie. Revengeful and mean was telling the woman who's been supporting your dream wedding to disappear from your family. I'm just being financially sensible. This will ruin everything. Everyone will believe we're poor. Well, now that you mention it, let that remain in the air for a moment, watching them struggle. Now that you mention it, without my financial backing, you likely are going to be poor quite soon. That's another thing we should talk about. What do you mean? Michael's voice was tense with fear now. I mean, have you actually examined your household budget recently? Do you know how much your monthly costs are versus your income? More frantic whispering. Because I've been supporting your lifestyle in ways you probably haven't even noticed. The grocery money I give to Amanda when we shop together. The utility bills I pay online because you're always a little short this month. The car fixes, the insurance premiums, the small crises that keep appearing. Those were presents, Amanda said weakly. Were they? Because From my perspective, they look more like an allowance, and allowances can be stopped at any time. The silence extended so long I thought they'd hung up. Finally, Michael spoke. "Mom, what do you want?" Now that was intriguing. An hour ago, they couldn't wait to remove me. Now they wish to negotiate. "I want exactly what you offered me to disappear from your family permanently. And I want to take my money with me when I go." By Sunday morning, my phone had 37 missed calls and 41 text messages. I ignored them all while enjoying room service breakfast and reading the Sunday paper like a proper person. The wedding was planned for 2 p.m. At 9 a.m., there was a knock on my hotel room door. Through the peephole, I saw Michael in his wrinkled tuxedo shirt, appearing like he hadn't slept at all. "Mom, please, we need to talk." I opened the door, but didn't ask him in. "Shouldn't you be preparing for your important day?" "That's what I need to talk to you about." His eyes were red-rimmed, desperate. "Anne's having a meltdown. She's locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. Her mother is threatening to fly back to California. The whole situation is falling apart." "I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you resolve it." "Resolve it? Mom, you wrecked our wedding." "No, son. I withdrew my financial support from your wedding. There's a distinction." He pushed past me into the room, and I allowed him. Sometimes you must let people trap themselves with their own statements. "This is insane. Over what, a confusion about sleeping arrangements?" "Sit down, Michael."
Something in my tone made him obey. I remained standing, looking down at my 42-year-old son, who was finally starting to comprehend that actions have results. This isn't about sleeping arrangements. This is about respect. This is about thankfulness. This is about treating the person who made your lifestyle possible like a human being instead of a nuisance. We've always treated you well. Have you? When was the last time you asked about my life, my interests, my feelings? When was the last time you invited me somewhere because you wanted my company, not because you required my assistance? He opened his mouth, then closed it. "I'll wait." The silence stretched uncomfortably. When was the last time you phoned just to talk? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you? When was the last time you treated me like your mother instead of your personal bank? That's not fair. Isn't it, Michael? In the past year, how much money have I given you and Amanda? I don't know, a few thousand here and there for emergencies? $37,000. His face went pale.
$37,000 in emergencies and small assists. And just until we recover financially, on top of the $87,000 for the house down payment? That's $124,000, Michael, more than many people earn in 2 years. We were always intending to pay you back. Were you? Because Amanda's been shopping for a new car. You've been viewing vacation deals to Europe. Neither of you has mentioned paying me back even once. He slumped forward, head in his hands. "What do you want from me, Mom?"
"I want you to understand that I'm not your personal ATM. I want you to understand that kindness and generosity aren't endless resources. And I want you to understand that when you treat someone poorly enough for long enough, eventually they stop caring about your problems." "So you're punishing us by ruining our wedding day?" The casual cruelty in that statement, that my setting boundaries was punishment, confirmed everything I've been feeling. "No, Michael, I'm protecting myself by stopping the pattern of financial abuse." "Financial abuse? That's absurd." "Is it? You've conditioned me to believe that my only value to your family is monetary. You've trained me to expect bits of affection in exchange for major financial contributions. You've made me feel guilty for having needs and expectations, while you take everything I offer for granted. I sat down across from him, leaning forward so he had to look at me. Yesterday, Amanda told me the best present I could give your family was to disappear permanently. And you agreed with her. After everything I've done, everything I've sacrificed, you agreed that I should disappear. She didn't mean it. Yes, she did, and so did you. And you know what? You're going to get exactly what you requested. He looked up sharply. What does that mean? I smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. It means you better determine how to pay for your own lifestyle from now on. It means you better hope Amanda's parents are feeling generous, and it means you better start viewing apartments because the house situation is about to get very complex. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the legal papers you never bothered to read before your father and I assisted you with that down payment. The ones that make me a part owner of your precious house. The color drained from his face completely. That's correct, sweetheart. I own 35% of your house, and I'm about to list it on the market. Michael stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. You can't own part of our house. We purchased it. We live there. With my $87,000 down payment? Yes. Did you think that money just vanished into the air? But you said it was a present. You said you wanted to help us get started.
I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Margaret's email from last night. Apparently, my lawyer had different ideas about securing my investment. Would you like me to read you the relevant legal documents? This is impossible. Amanda would have had to sign something. Amanda was supposed to sign something. She kept forgetting to return the papers. Margaret kept them on file anyway. Michael was shaking now, either from rage or terror. You planned this. You've been planning this whole thing. Oh, sweetheart, if I'd been planning this, don't you think I would have done it before paying for your wedding? The truth of that seemed to strike him. I'd spent $14,000 on a wedding for people who just told me to disappear. If I'd been scheming, I would have stopped it months ago. So what happens now? His voice was small, defeated. Now you have a choice. You can purchase my 35% share at current market value, or we can sell the house and divide the profits. We can't afford to purchase your share. The house is worth $300,000 now. 35% of that is over $100,000. I know, I'm good at math. That's why I have money, and you two are always broke. He flinched. We're not broke. We just have many expenses. Michael, your combined household income is $8,000 a month. Your mortgage payment alone is $2,400. Include car payments, credit cards, utilities, groceries, and Amanda's shopping habit, and you're spending more than you earn every single month. How do you know all that? Because I've been covering the difference for the past 3 years. Do you think the money fairy was leaving cash under your pillow? The hotel room phone rang. I answered it while Michael sat there processing his new reality. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Jessica from Sunset Gardens. I have the bride's mother on another line. She is inquiring about restoring today's reception. She states she'll pay all the costs if you'll allow us to proceed. I looked at Michael, who was listening with desperate hope in his eyes. That's very generous of her, Jessica, but I'm afraid that won't be possible. Mom, please, Michael started. I held up a hand to silence him. You see, Jessica, there are some family dynamics at play here that make it unsuitable for me to accept payment from other family members for an event I chose to cancel. I understand. Should I inform Mrs. Hensworth that the cancellation stands? Yes, please. And Jessica, send my final bill to this hotel. I'll settle up everything I owe for the trouble. After hanging up, I turned back to Michael. Amanda's mother was willing to pay $14,000 to save your reception.
She's been planning this wedding for months. She invited half her country club. How nice for her. Too bad her daughter couldn't manage to be polite to the person who was originally paying for everything. Michael pulled out his phone. I need to call Amanda. We need to determine what to do about the house. Go ahead, but Michael, when you talk to your wife about our new arrangement, make sure she understands something. He looked up from dialing. I'm not the same woman who walked out of your house last night. That woman was desperate to maintain family peace at any cost. This woman is done being taken advantage of. You're really going to force us to sell our home? I'm going to exercise my legal rights as a part owner. What you do with that information is up to you. He left without another word, probably to deliver the worst news of Amanda's life on what was supposed to be the happiest day. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Dorothy? Amanda's voice was barely recognizable through her tears. We need to talk. No, sweetie, we really don't. You made it very clear yesterday that talking to me wasn't something you were interested in doing. I was upset. I was stressed about the wedding. I didn't mean what I said. Of course you were upset. It must be tiring pretending to tolerate someone you clearly dislike. I don't dislike you. Amanda, in the 3 years since you moved into the house I purchased for you, you've never once thanked me. Not once. You've never asked about my life, my interests, my health. You've never invited me to anything unless you needed me to babysit or bring food or write a check. That's not true. When was the last time you phoned, just to see how I was doing? Silence. I'll save you the mental effort. Never. You've never called just to check on me. But you're Michael's mother, your family. Yesterday, you told me the best present I could give this family was to disappear permanently. Today, you're claiming I'm family. Which is it? More crying. The kind of desperate sobbing that once would have made me rush over with tissues and comfort. Dorothy, please. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay you back. Pay me back with what, money? You don't work, remember? You're a full-time homemaker in a house you couldn't afford without my money. I'll get a job. That's a great idea. You should definitely do that. But it doesn't change the current situation with the house. What if we agree to pay you back for everything you've given us over the years? I almost laughed. Amanda, honey, you owe me $124,000. At minimum wage, it would take you about 6 years to earn that much, and that's assuming you never spend money on anything else. The silence that followed was the sound of reality finally sinking in. By 4 p.m., they'd called 16 more times. I'd answered exactly none of them. Instead, I was sitting in the hotel restaurant enjoying a lovely late lunch and watching the local news coverage of a wedding disaster at Sunset Gardens. The reporter didn't mention names, but the footage of Amanda in her wedding dress crying on the country club steps was pretty clear. Excuse me, aren't you Dorothy Mitchell? I looked up to see a woman about my age with perfectly styled gray hair and kind eyes. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. I'm sorry, do we know each other? Barbara Hasworth, Amanda's mother. She gestured to the empty chair across from me. May I? This should be intriguing.
Barbara sat down with the practiced grace of someone who'd spent decades handling social crises.
I wanted to thank you. That wasn't what I had anticipated. Thank me for showing my daughter who she really is? The waitress appeared, and Barbara ordered coffee. I waited, curious about where this was going. I've been concerned about Amanda for years. The entitlement, the way she treats people she considers beneath her, the complete lack of gratitude for anything. I kept hoping marriage would mature her, and now I've seen how she treats the woman who made her lifestyle possible, and I'm appalled. Barbara's coffee arrived. She sipped it thoughtfully before continuing. I offered to pay for the reception, not because I support Amanda's behavior, but because I felt responsible for the 200 guests who'd been inconvenienced. But you were right to refuse. Was I? My daughter needed to face consequences for her actions, real consequences, the kind that can't be fixed with daddy's money or mommy's connections. I studied Barbara carefully. There was something refreshing about her directness. She called me hysterical about the house situation, demanding that I loan them money to purchase your share. And I told her absolutely not. If she wanted to own a house, she should have treated the part owner with respect. A woman after my own heart. Can I ask you something, Dorothy? What's your final goal here? Are you planning to force the sale? I'd been wondering that myself. Honestly, I haven't decided. Part of me wants to see if they can actually figure out how to support themselves without my money. Part of me wants to sell the house just to watch their perfect little world collapse. And the other part remembers that Michael is still my son despite everything. Barbara nodded. I understand, but may I offer some advice from someone who's been enabling her daughter's bad behavior for 39 years? Please don't save them from this. Whatever you decide about the house, don't cushion the fall. Amanda has never faced real consequences for treating people poorly, and it's turned her into someone I barely recognize as my daughter. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. I'm flying back to California tomorrow. If you ever want to talk to someone who understands what it's like to love an ungrateful child, call me. After Barbara left, I sat alone with my thoughts and my phone, which was still buzzing with increasingly desperate messages. The truth was, I hadn't decided what I wanted my final goal to be. I'd been reacting, protecting myself, asserting boundaries, but now I needed to determine what came next. The nuclear choice was forcing the sale. Michael and Amanda would have to find an apartment, probably in a much less desirable part of town. They'd finally understand what it meant to live within their means. The merciful choice was offering to sell them my share for less than market value, maybe what I'd actually put into the house. They'd still struggle, but they might be able to keep their home. The spiteful choice was holding on to my ownership stake indefinitely, collecting my share of the property taxes and any improvements while watching them struggle every month. As I sat there weighing my options, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Michael or Amanda. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Virginia Beach Police Department. I'm calling about a report we received regarding financial elder abuse. My blood went cold. I'm sorry, what? We had a call from someone claiming that family members have been financially exploiting you and that you might be experiencing cognitive decline. They're requesting a welfare check. Those manipulative little snakes. Detective Rodriguez, I can assure you that I'm in full possession of my mental faculties. In fact, I'm probably thinking more clearly than I have in years. That's good to hear, ma'am, but we do need to follow up on these reports. Would you be available to meet with me tomorrow morning? I looked around the hotel restaurant at the normal people living their normal lives and felt a surge of pure fury at my son and daughter-in-law's latest manipulation. Absolutely, Detective. In fact, I have quite a lot I'd like to discuss with you about financial abuse, just not the kind my family reported. After scheduling the meeting, I sat back in my chair and smiled. If Michael and Amanda wanted to play hardball,
I was more than ready to pick up the bat. Time to show them what a real power play looked like.
She tore the check in half. Barbara, that's a lot of money. Money Amanda hasn't earned and doesn't deserve. Dorothy, I want you to know that whatever you decide about the house, you have my support. Even if it means they lose their home. Especially then. Maybe having to start over will teach Amanda what work and gratitude actually mean. After Barbara left, I sat alone with my thoughts. For 3 years, I'd been Amanda's enabler just as much as her parents had been. Every time I wrote a check to cover their shortfall, I'd been teaching them that there would always be someone to catch them when they fell. The question was, what kind of lesson did I want them to learn now? My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Mom, we've been approved for a home equity loan that would cover $60,000 toward purchasing you out. Can we meet to discuss partial payment arrangements for the rest? I stared at the message for a long time. They were trying, which was more than they'd done in years. But a home equity loan meant going deeper into debt, not learning to live responsibly. I typed back, we can discuss it, but I want to see a complete household budget and a realistic plan for paying off all your debts, not just mine. His response came immediately. Anything you want, Mom. We just want to make this right. For the first time since this whole thing started, that sounded like progress. The budget meeting was enlightening in the worst possible way. Michael and Amanda spread their financial documents across Margaret's conference table like evidence of a crime, which in a way they were. Okay, I said, reviewing their monthly expenses. You spend $400 a month on restaurants. We both work long hours, Amanda said defensively. Sometimes we're too tired to cook. You don't work at all, Amanda. I mean, Michael works long hours.
Detective Rodriguez was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with intelligent eyes and the kind of patient demeanor that probably served him well in family disputes. We met at the police station Monday morning, and I'd brought my entire financial file. Mrs. Mitchell, I want to start by saying that the person who called us seemed genuinely concerned about your welfare. I'm sure they did. My daughter-in-law is very good at sounding concerned when it suits her purposes.
I spread my bank statements across his desk. Detective, in the past 3 years, I've given my son and his wife $124,000. Would you like to see the documentation? His eyebrows rose as he examined the papers. Check after check, wire transfers, credit card payments made on their behalf, a pattern of financial dependency that looked exactly like what it was. This is substantial, he said carefully. It is. And yesterday, when I finally set some boundaries about how they treat me, they decided I must be mentally incompetent. I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail Amanda had left at 3 a.m. Dorothy, this is crazy behavior. Normal people don't destroy their families' lives over hurt feelings. We're worried about you. Maybe you need to see someone, get some help. Michael thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown. Detective Rodriguez listened, taking notes. Has there been any history of cognitive issues, Mrs. Mitchell? None whatsoever. I manage my own finances, maintain my own household, drive myself places. The only thing that's changed is that I stopped letting them take advantage of me. I showed him the house documents Margaret had sent over. My lawyer can verify that I'm a legal part owner of their property. Everything I'm doing is within my rights as an investor, protecting her assets, and the wedding cancellation. I was paying for a reception for people who told me to disappear from their family permanently, so I honored their request. We talked for another 20 minutes. Detective Rodriguez was thorough but fair, and by the end he seemed satisfied that I was mentally competent and financially savvy. Mrs. Mitchell,
I'm going to close this case as unfounded, but I do want to give you some information about elder financial abuse resources, just in case. Actually, Detective, I think I've got the situation well in hand now. As I drove away from the police station, my phone rang. Michael again. Mom, the police called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check. That's because I'm not the one being financially abused in this relationship, sweetheart. What's that supposed to mean? It means you and Amanda have been systematically draining my resources for years while giving me nothing but disrespect in return. The detective was very interested in my documentation. A long pause. Are you threatening us? I'm informing you that your manipulation tactics aren't working anymore. Mom, please, can we just sit down and talk about this like adults? We can, but not at the house I co-own, and not until Amanda apologizes for her behavior. She's sorry. She's been crying for 2 days. Has she? Because the voicemail she left me at 3 this morning suggested she thinks I'm mentally ill, not that she's sorry. Another pause. Where do you want to meet? Margaret Chen's office tomorrow at 2 p.m. Bring Amanda and bring a realistic proposal for how you're going to handle the house situation. A proposal. Michael, I own 35% of an asset worth $300,000. That's my retirement security. You either purchase my share or we sell. Those are your options. After hanging up, I realized something had shifted in our dynamic. For the first time in years, they needed something from me more than I needed something from them.
Margaret's law office felt like neutral territory. All dark wood and leather-bound books. Michael and Amanda arrived 15 minutes late, looking like they'd been arguing in the car. Amanda's eyes were puffy and red, her usual polish completely gone. She'd clearly been crying for days, and part of me felt a twinge of sympathy. The other part remembered her words. The best present would be if you vanished from our family.
Dorothy, Amanda started immediately. I owe you an enormous apology. I was stressed and overwhelmed, and I said things I didn't mean. Thank you. That's a start. She looked surprised, like she'd expected me to immediately forgive everything. Margaret spread the house documents across the conference table. Let's review the facts. Dorothy provided $87,000 for the down payment. The mortgage shows her as a cosigner. The deed lists her ownership at 35%. Michael studied the papers like they might magically change. We had no idea about the ownership stake. You would have if Amanda had signed the acknowledgement forms, Margaret replied crisply. I sent them 3 times. I was busy with wedding planning, Amanda said weakly. For 3 years? Margaret's tone was beautifully skeptical. I let them squirm for a moment before speaking. The question now is how we move forward. I have a proposal. They both leaned forward hopefully. Option 1, you purchase my 35% share at current market value, $105,000. Amanda's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. Option 2, we put the house on the market and split the proceeds according to ownership percentages. We'd have to move, Michael said quietly. Yes, you would, to something you can actually afford. What about option 3? Amanda asked desperately. There is no option 3. Those are your choices. Margaret pulled out a calculator. If you sold the house today, after realtor fees and closing costs, you'd probably net around $270,000. Dorothy's share would be about $95,000. You'd have $175,000 to find new housing. That's not enough for anything decent, Amanda protested. It's enough for a nice apartment or a smaller house in a different neighborhood. You know, the kind of place people with your actual income should be living in. Michael ran his hands through his hair. Mom, Is there any way we can work out a payment plan? Maybe we could pay you monthly until we've purchased your share. I'd been waiting for this. At what interest rate and with what collateral? You've already proven you don't honor financial agreements. That's not fair, is it? You owe me $37,000 in emergency loans that you never intended to repay. Why would I trust you with another $100,000? Amanda started crying again. This is going to destroy our lives. No, Amanda. This is going to force you to live within your means for the first time in your adult life. But what about our credit? What about our reputation? I almost laughed. Your credit? Honey, your credit is already terrible. You've been late on every bill for months. I know because I've been bailing you out. Margaret cleared her throat. I need to advise you that Dorothy has every legal right to force a sale. She's being more than generous by offering these options. How long do we have to decide? Michael asked. 30 days, I said. That should give you time to explore your financing options. As we prepared to leave, Amanda grabbed my arm. Dorothy, please. I know I hurt you, but we're family. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. For just a moment, I saw the scared young woman behind the entitled facade. Amanda, family is supposed to count for something. That's exactly the point. 2 weeks into their 30-day deadline, I got an unexpected visitor. Barbara Hapworth stood on my hotel room doorstep with a bottle of wine and a determined expression. I hope you don't mind me dropping by. I got your hotel information from Margaret Chen. I invited her in, curious about what had brought Amanda's mother back to Virginia. I came to check on the kids, Barbara said, settling into the room's only armchair, and to talk to you. How are they doing? Terribly. Amanda's having daily panic attacks. Michael's working overtime trying to find a way to get a loan. They're fighting constantly. I poured us both glasses of wine, surprised to find I felt less satisfaction in their misery than I had expected. Barbara, are you here to ask me to reconsider? Actually, no. I'm here to tell you about Amanda's father. That wasn't what I expected. Richard spoiled our daughter rotten. Every tantrum was rewarded. Every consequence was cushioned. Every failure was someone else's fault. She sipped her wine thoughtfully. When Amanda was 16, she totaled her car driving drunk. Instead of letting her face the legal consequences, Richard hired the best lawyer money could buy and got the charges dropped. Why are you telling me this? Because I've watched my daughter become someone I don't recognize, and I finally understand that her problems aren't going to be solved by more money or more rescuing. Barbara reached into her purse and pulled out a check. Amanda asked me to give you this. It's for $25,000, a good faith payment toward purchasing your share. I looked at the check, but didn't touch it. And what did you tell her? I told her I wouldn't be her enabler anymore. That check represents Richard's life insurance policy, money I was saving for her inheritance, but I realized that giving it to her would just be repeating the same pattern.
I moved down the list. $300 a month on Amanda's clothing budget. I need to look professional for social events. What social events? You don't have a job. Amanda's face was getting red, but I continued. $200 on premium cable and streaming services. $150 on Amanda's gym membership that you use maybe twice a month. $800 a month in credit card minimums for what appears to be shopping and vacation debt. Michael was adding numbers on his phone calculator. Mom, I know it looks bad. It looks like you're living a lifestyle that requires about $12,000 a month when you bring home $8,000. But with the home equity loan, we could pay off the credit cards and reduce our monthly expenses significantly, Amanda said hopefully. I looked at Margaret, who was taking notes with professional detachment.
Amanda, you would be borrowing against the house to pay off credit card debt. What happens when you run up the credit cards again? We won't. We've learned our lesson. Have you? Because I don't see any significant changes in this budget. You're still eating out constantly, still maintaining expensive memberships you barely use, still treating shopping like a hobby. Michael leaned forward. What would you want to see, Mom? What would convince you that we're serious about changing? Finally, the right question. I want to see a budget that reflects your actual income. I want you two cooking at home, canceling unnecessary subscriptions, and Amanda getting a job. A job? Amanda looked horrified. Yes, a job. You're 39 years old with a college degree. There's no reason you can't contribute to the household income. But Michael makes good money. Not good enough, apparently, since you've been supplementing it with my money for 3 years. Margaret cleared her throat. Dorothy, what exactly are you proposing? I've been thinking about this for days. Here's my offer. You can purchase my share for $75,000 instead of the full market value of $105,000, but there are conditions. They both perked up. First, Amanda gets a job within 60 days and maintains it for at least 2 years. Second, you sell one of your cars and use the proceeds to pay down debt. Third, you stick to a realistic budget with no restaurant meals, no unnecessary shopping, and no new debt for 2 years. How would you monitor that? Michael asked. Monthly financial check-ins with Margaret. You provide bank statements, credit reports, and proof of income. If you violate any of the conditions, the full amount becomes due immediately. Amanda was shaking her head. That's like being in financial prison. No, Amanda, that's called being accountable for your choices. They asked her time to discuss it privately. While they huddled in the hallway, Margaret turned to me. This is either very generous or very cruel. I can't decide which. Maybe it's both. When they came back, Michael spoke for both of them. We accept your terms. All of them? I asked. Amanda confirmed, though she looked like she was swallowing poison. All of them. Margaret started drafting the agreement. I'll need this notarized and filed with the county recorder's office.
As we finalized the paperwork, I watched my son and daughter-in-law sign away their financial freedom for the next 2 years. Part of me felt victorious. Part of me felt sad that it had come to this, but mostly I felt like I was finally teaching them a lesson their parents should have taught them decades ago. Actions have consequences, and family isn't a free pass to treat people badly. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment, a lovely 2-bedroom place in a senior community with a pool and walking trails, when Amanda called with surprising news. Dorothy, I got the promotion. Amanda had started working as a receptionist at a dental office, and apparently she'd been good enough at it to move up to office manager. That's wonderful, honey. How do you feel? Exhausted, she laughed, and it was the first genuine laugh I'd heard from her in years. And proud. I never knew I was good at organizing things. You always were. You just never had to use those skills before. There was a pause. Dorothy, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the panicked one from Margaret's office. I'm listening. I was horrible to you for years. I treated you like an ATM, and then got angry when you had feelings about it. I told myself you were just being dramatic. But the truth is, I was entitled and cruel. I set down my coffee cup, surprised by how much her words affected me. What changed your mind? Having to work for money instead of just asking for it. Realizing how hard it is to save even $100 when you're paying your own bills. understanding what you sacrificed to help us. And Michael, he's getting there. He still thinks you were too harsh, but he admits we needed to change. Through my window, I could see other residents working in the community garden. I had signed up to help with the spring planting next week. How are things between you two? Better, actually. We're talking more now that we're not constantly stressed about money. We cook together. We take walks instead of going shopping. It's nice. I'm glad. Dorothy, would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just homemade spaghetti and maybe some conversation that isn't about money. I thought about it. The old Dorothy would have said yes immediately, desperate to restore the relationship. The new Dorothy had learned to protect her boundaries. I'd like that, but let's start with lunch in a public place. Baby steps. Of course, whatever you're comfortable with.
After we hung up, I sat quietly for a while, processing how different this conversation had felt from all the others. Amanda had sounded like an adult, taking responsibility for her actions, not a child making excuses. Maybe the lesson had finally taken.
My phone buzzed with a text from Barbara Hangsworth. Heard about Amanda's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her. I texted back, thank you for not bailing her out. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes love means saying no. And sometimes the best present you can give someone is the opportunity to discover who they really are when no one's there to catch them.
I'd spent 3 years being their safety net, and in doing so, I'd robbed them of the chance to develop their own strength. When I finally pulled that net away, they'd learned to fly, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And maybe that was the most valuable lesson of all.
Outside my window, the sun was setting over the walking trail where I'd signed up for a seniors hiking group.
Tomorrow, I was having lunch with a man named Frank, who'd asked me out after we'd both laughed at the same joke during last week's book club meeting.
At 68, I was finally learning what it felt like to be valued for who I was, not what I could provide. And that was worth more than all the money I'd ever given away. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.